just take that note. And I believe him. I believe he's 100% sincere. I know Henry for a while. We know 50 or more of the same people. And I believe he's speaking from his heart when he says he loves to help people. But you can't spend your time helping somebody who's not willing to help themselves.
No, that stuff like that I don't have patience for, honestly, Derek.
What would you say to these people when they have some lingering relationship in their lives and they're thinking, oh, it's my friend from back in the day?
You gotta cut them the hell out. You gotta cut the fat, dude. You know, you are who you surround yourself with, or you could be who you surround yourself with. Doesn't mean you're gonna, but yeah, man, I'm cutthroat. Like, I mean, I even go.
If you don't have $1 million yet, you're living a much lesser life than what could be easily available to you with the right guidance. My head coach has freed up a few spots in his calendar to hold one-on-one strategy calls with the highest quality applicants. If you're doing well already and you're looking to accelerate your momentum and do even better, click the link in the description now and apply for your strategy session. More at the end of this video.
Today we got Henry Cejudo. And Henry Cejudo is, he's very modest, the most modest fighter in UFC history. Probably the most humble and also the greatest and the bestest pound for pound male fighter ever, perhaps. Henry's the only guy who, he won his belt at, I don't know in which order, forgive me, but he won the 125 belt and defended it. At the same time, he won the 135 pound belt and defended that. And he didn't lose those belts, he just retired. I guess he got bored of dudes. But earlier in life, Henry also found himself an Olympic gold medal in wrestling. So he's the only person from UFC ever that got himself a gold medal for fighting, and then is also a double champ. There's only 4, so he calls himself humbly and modestly the triple champ, triple C. So gold medal, 2 belts, triple C. There's only 4 people ever that held 2 belts at the same time. There's only 4 people ever that did that. That's Daniel Cormier, who was inducted into the Hall of Fame yesterday, literally yesterday. That's Amanda Nunes, and Conor McGregor, and Henry Cejudo. So it's really is one of the, I mean, it's not one of, it's many people that are Hall of Fame, elite fighters regard Henry as the best pound for pound fighter in UFC history. And I don't think you'll disagree with any of that, would you?
Derek, you're just singing to my ears.
Now, something that Henry and I share in common is not only our work ethic or desire to do a little better every day, but also our deep humility and humbleness. That to understand the true depths of our humility, that they'd have to know how great we are to understand how humble we are. Have you ever thought about that? But I think
that's a good one.
But isn't that the truth? Wouldn't somebody have to know how great you really are to understand just how humble you are and how many times per day you bite your tongue?
I'm not even lying. He's right.
There it is. There it is. So those are common values we share: is a deep humility and humbleness, and also a strong work ethic. Henry, what got you started in fighting, or what got you interested in wrestling and MMA? How did it start?
Well, I guess sometimes you want to give credit to the nature and nurture. The genetics with your parents of what they gave you, and obviously your upbringing and how you were raised. So I'm one of 7 kids raised by a single mother. Born in South Central LA. Both of my parents came to this country, maybe not the most legal way, but they came here to escape a war zone, poverty, and things like that. So I knew since I was a kid, Derek, that I was different, but I was always special at the same time, because I knew that as a kid I had lived life, life had came so quick to me. Where by the time I was 3-4 years old, I was like Santa Claus, man, that's like that make-believe guy, And I don't know if that's always good, but what I'm trying to say is I think the environments that you're raised in has a lot to do with what you're gonna end up striving to be. And in my position, it would happen to be, the sport of wrestling. And the way I found wrestling, I was First of all, I think it starts off with the dream, with the goal. I'll never forget it, Derek, because I was a 9-year-old boy, and there's a lot of people that are probably my age. I'm 35, but I'll never forget it because I was a 9-year-old boy, and I remember watching the TV. And at this time, we lived like in the south side of Phoenix, on a rundown trailer, and I remember like there was 6 of us with my mom. And I'll never forget it because it was a black and white TV with wooden panels on the side. And the only way to change the channel was making sure the ply hooked on the right way. And for some reason, to get reception, you had to put a hanger to, and somehow you would get that. And half the time the TV happened to work. But that day I was destined to watch the Olympics that day. I'll never forget it because the hot summer day of '96, I remember watching Michael Johnson with his infamous gold shoes. The way he shattered that world record, it changed my life forever. So I want to say that it also started off with inspiration. And I think it was a dream of me. Hey, I don't know how, I don't know when, but I want to be in that position one day to be able to represent my country and to be able to stand on top of the podium and say, I am the absolute best in the world. You fast forward life and kind of where it took me, being born in the ghettos, I raised in apartments pretty much the majority of my life, never had a bed. And then fighting for ice cream as a little kid. So just picture you guys, a bunch of drunk Mexicans. They used to make they used to make these little kids fight. If you're victorious, you got a Mexican ice cream. If you weren't, too bad, so sad. But to me, I've always noticed that it was cool. The incentive was the ice cream. But I think for me, it was more of that competition of how big can I go before I really get hurt by one of these kids? How far could I go? So I knew the spirit in me since I was a little kid, that it was, I had the spirit of a warrior, And then finally I was introduced to the sport of wrestling. They had it in junior high through my brother. My brother, I'll never forget it because he told me, he's like, Henry, they have wrestling at the Olympics. And automatically I was thinking like some WWE, the Ultimate Warrior. Like I was thinking like, no, this is amateur style wrestling. This is, you can go to the Olympics in this. And I'll never forget it because that kid that grew up having a fight for ice creams as a little kid in front of, as an entertainment for a bunch of drunk Mexicans, seeing these 2 kids compete and then having the principal go up to them and shake their hand and then present them an award and a medal, I was just thrown off. I'm like, these guys are being rewarded for the things that I love and that I do off school campus. And the first time I laced them up, I knew I was just a natural. And I think you owe it to your upbringing, you owe it to your ability, and obviously your desire, your will, the hard work, all that stuff that goes in there. So by the time I started wrestling from 11 years old to by the time I was 17 years old, I had won every national tournament that the United States had to offer. I was the number 1 recruit in high school. I was being granted scholarships from Harvard, from all these schools. You think of every Division One school in the country wanted me to compete for their team. And as a 17-year-old boy, they knew my situation. They knew my circumstances of where I was at, like born, being raised in in the ghetto. And a lot of these guys knew that the talent that I had. So they said, Henry wants you to become an experiment, sort of what they do in China with little kids, like they put them in a camp and hopefully within the next, 10 to 12 years, they could become a world champion or Olympic champion. And they gave me that opportunity. And Derek, I was a 17-year-old kid, and I'll never forget it because I'll never forget leaving home as a junior in high school to train for the Olympics for 4 years, where a lot of people were counting me out. It's like, man, you're taking a real big gamble, man, because you're foregoing college, you're becoming a professional. Because I needed money. You got all this going on, and you really think you're gonna go out there and win the Olympics? And I'm like, yeah, I really do. So I'll never forget it because on August 19th of 2004, I left home. I'll never forget it. 2 duffel bags. I probably had like I think $22 in my back pocket and a duffel bag full of shoes. I like shoes. And then so on August 19th of 2004, I left home. And on August 19th, exactly 4 years later in 2008, that kid with that dream, became the youngest Olympic champion in the history of the United States of America. I mean, I go back and I reflect on everything that's happened to me and how much I had to always keep that dream alive. The inspiration of knowing that one day I'm going to be just like Mike. One day I'm going to chase it just like him. I'm going to take it to, I'm going to pioneer the sport where it's never been, where it's unknown. And I almost still feel, Derek, like that still kind of flows within me.
You ever have a moment in your life where you thought you lived your life well, in a different context, not in this context? You ever have a moment where you thought you lived your life well, then you heard something like profound and inspirational and useful, and you're like, shit, I should have done that 20, 30 years ago? You have a couple learning lessons like that? Because I just had one that I had to fucking fight kids in the neighborhood, and we didn't even get no ice cream.
Yeah.
I was beating kids up just because they were trying to bully me and calling me shitty names and trying to intimidate me with like 2 or 3 guys who are trying to intimidate me. So I just punched the biggest one and see where things went, And I didn't even get no ice cream. Now, if there was a reward mechanism like that, I mean, maybe I wasn't going to be a double, triple champ, quadruple champ, 10x champ, whatever the hell it's going to be. But I mean, maybe I could have been like a top contender at Bellator or something at least,
Yeah.
Man.
I think you chose the right profession. Derek, I don't think
it's turned out okay.
You're right.
Man, there's it's harder to get an Olympic gold medal than it is to, a couple of guys that I know that they are billionaires, and they said it's easier to win an Olympic, they said it's harder to win an Olympic gold medal than to do what they're doing. That there's more people that have a lot of money than those gold medals. That what you did is harder than becoming a tech billionaire or Wall Street billionaire. These are guys that have the money. They don't have a medal. They got the money.
Yeah, I'll trade them.
Ray Dalio says, "Would you trade your medal for $1 billion?"
Yeah.
You're in a room with guys that love money.
But speaking on that, Derek, it's like, man, I get a chance to rub elbows with some of the, with billionaires like all across the world. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to speak in front of, Coca-Cola, which is they pick every year one person to pick to speak to the world, the most recognized brand, and happen to choose me. Having the opportunity to just meet a lot of people, I've been asked, like, what is it that makes the 1% of the 1%ers? Mm-hmm. What is it? Is it just hard work? And I'm like, yeah, hard work is a part of it, but it's also complex because it comes down to 2 things that I've recognized, and I call it heart and ability. What is the heart? The heart is the passion, the will, the desire, the determination. The heart is the goodness of your mind. When people talk about it's not this, man. It's not this cardiovascular thing. It's the goodness of your mind. It's the imagination. The heart is something you're willing to suffer for in order to obtain. Because you love it so much that you almost hate it. Or you hate it so much that you love it. That's the heart, which I think is the most important piece that you could have. But it could be just as equal as the ability. The ability is it could be it's a talent, a God-given talent, whether it's through DNA or through the hard work that you've gone out and you've rolled up your sleeve. You got money, you got scratched, you got cracked. You had the ability to make those decisions, to find the right engineers, to be able to leave home at a very young age. And the reason why I'm talking about abilities is because training for the Olympics, it was weird because I was a 17-year-old boy. Just imagine that. And then you have all these dudes that are in their mid-20s, 30s, trying to make an Olympic team. Like, there's guys that would just never let off that go. Had a lot of heart, but their ability was just, it just wasn't the ability that I had, So I always tell people,
I told you he's very humble. You'll get to know him more and more.
I always tell people, well, with the ability comes decision making. Are you doing the right things? Are you finding the right engineers? Are you putting yourself in the best position and situation possible? That's the ability, you know? Am I absolutely finding the best to be the best? Am I putting myself in the position to be the best, right? So it's always important to question whether it's the heart or the ability, because training for the Olympics, Derek, I saw a lot of people with a lot of ability, but they were just a little too damn lazy. You know, a lot of talent, but they're just like, I don't know if I want this. Or they had a lot of heart, but their ability was just not there. It doesn't matter how hard they work. Again, we're talking about the Olympics here. So when you can find that perfect match of the heart and the ability to be able to mesh, that's when you become the 1% of the 1%ers.
You're being too generous with your numbers. I don't disagree with anything you said. I think the moral of the story is beautiful. But a 1% of a 1% is just a 1 in 10,000 person. 1 in 10,000 people don't do anything close to what you did.
And I should have took an accounting class. Huh?
Well, I mean,
No, but you're right. I mean, it's you're more likely to get struck by lightning than to become an Olympic gold medalist.
when I think of, from my own humble perspective, when I think of like what's the joint probability of coming from the sort of environment that I came from, which is not so different than where you came from. When I think of the joint probability of going from like high school dropout, et cetera, to I graduated from the #1 business school out of 416. I got into University of Chicago's MBA program for graduate school. So I went to #1 graduate school, made the sort of money that I did some of the other things that I did over the years of helping other people make money. And, it's a, I don't know. I don't know the number, but there's not 1 in 100,000 people that are doing something like that. But then when we look at the joint probabilities, you didn't know we were having a math conversation today, but you like the numbers at the end, or you like the outcome at the end. When you think of the joint probabilities of someone, well, nobody, 0 people besides you, you're the only one. This one, 2 UFC belts, and that Olympic gold medal. Nobody else did that. And even just thinking up to this point in the story of up to that Olympic gold medal, that's not a 1 in 10,000 event. There's, I don't know, is it 1 in 600,000, 800,000? I don't know. How many individual people have an Olympic gold medal who are alive right now in any sport, let alone in wrestling?
Yeah.
So it's, these are extremely, it's the 1% of the 1% of the 1%. So.
Yeah.
But Henry, as I said, is very humble. He's understating the significance of what he did. But those are the real numbers. It's much more scarce than 1 in 10,000 to get an Olympic gold medal.
Yeah.
Just that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so pure too. Like when you think of the Olympic Games, it's like in wrestling, it was considered the world's oldest sport. Like if you guys even look at now, like the UFC and how dominant the sport of wrestling is. So even me now, as as a 5'4" fighter, it's a trip how many people travel from pretty much all across the world to kind of get advice from me. From Zhang Weili from China, from Yuri Prochazka from Czech Republic, who just won the UFC belt, from one of the greatest of all times, Demetrius Johnson, 11 title defense at the UFC, to the greatest of all times, and John Jones. It's like I think the biggest thing that I take from becoming a champion, Derek, is what is it that and it's a feeling for me is how is it that I can give back. And I think that stuff is like the satisfying part rather than just, this is me. You know what I mean?
I'm curious how you think about that give back mechanism. And I don't have to publish this if it feels uncomfortable. But when I think about myself, I have a couple people. They want to help everybody. I want to help 1 billion people. I want to change 1 billion lives. There's no way that I give a half a shit about 1 billion people on Earth. There's no way. I dislike most people that I meet are people that I would pay money to not spend time with.
Yeah.
And now that said, I love to help. I have that same nourishing. I'm not the type of person who wants to raise kids. That's not for me. I had a vasectomy when I was 26. I knew this early. I never spent a millisecond. Not for a moment did I ever regret that. It's the best money I ever spent in my life. It's the best money I ever spent. No way I had a better ROI on anything. That said, I just wanted to work. I wanted to be focused. I didn't want to have these distractions, including children. And I don't mean to say that in a controversial type way. Some people at home might be like, okay. It wasn't for me, but at least I knew that about myself. I wasn't the type of person that wanted to raise children, had that sort of nurturing. But man, I like to win. I like to set goals and accomplish goals. I like to set new goals and accomplish goals. I like to win. And I do like being around other people that have that sort of mindset, that are just kind of serious people, that are, they're not fumbling through life. They're not okay with a mediocre outcome or telling themselves, hey, I'm doing better than a lot of people, so we're doing great, right? But they're like at the 60th or 80th percentile of life when they could have been somebody. If they really worked towards their potential, they could have been somebody. They could have done something that mattered.
Yeah.
I really enjoy helping people that want to help themselves.
Yeah.
I really enjoy helping people that, the way I think of it, the selfish part at the end is, I really love when, I didn't have good mentors or role models growing up, so I'd like to fill that spot in somebody else's life. And, I enjoy being compensated for it, but probably the biggest part, there's a lot of things I could do to make more money, but probably the biggest part emotionally for me is like, if I have somebody who wants to work hard, they're willing to work hard, they need that guidance to be pointed in the right direction. Because what happens if you're working really hard on the wrong things? You're making things worse. But if you're working really hard and you got a great coach in your respective area, well, then you're making things, up to your true potential, up to your full potential.
Yeah.
So I like helping people that want to help themselves. I like people that, imagine at your gym that, some of the people that you just mentioned are, former champions, current champions. You didn't mention that you got a lot of spare time to help some bum off the street that, says he wants to do something but doesn't show up on time, skips some sessions. You know what I mean? You're probably not going to be training with that guy for very long.
No. But you are right. I just feel like sometimes you come across certain people in your life that
sometimes I'm come across as kind-hearted.
No, it sounded like I was going that way, but no.
Okay.
And I think it's our purpose. It's our for at least of how I feel like as a 35-year-old man now. Like it's cool. What I can give is my experience, and not everybody's gonna take it, but at least I can be like, hey man, I told you so. It's on you to take it. It's on you to fly, or whatever it is that a lot of the curriculum that Derek, he's been there, he's done that. Those who have eyes will hear. Those who have eyes will see. But not everybody can hear or see. And I think that's like the biggest thing.
You must have had somebody over the years that asked for you for help, and you're being as kind-hearted as I am, you probably were happy to look out for them, but then they start not showing up for their own success. Maybe they missed some sessions, maybe they showed up late, maybe they don't want to follow instructions, they're not very coachable. Have you found that to be good use of your time to try to help somebody that doesn't want to help themselves?
Oh no, I'm out.
So
I'm out.
Just take that note, and I believe him. I believe he's 100% sincere. I know Henry for a while. We know 50 or more of the same people, and I believe he's speaking from his heart when he says he loves to help people. But you can't spend your time helping somebody who's not willing to help themselves.
No, that stuff like that I don't have patience for, honestly, Derek. I'm like,
what would you say to these people when they have some lingering relationships in that life, in their lives, and they're thinking, oh, it's my friend from back in the day?
You gotta cut them the hell out. You gotta cut the fat, dude, because you are who you surround yourself with, or you could be who you surround yourself with. Doesn't mean you're gonna, But yeah, man, I'm cutthroat. Like, I mean, I even go back to like success, and I think of getting ready for a competition or getting ready to beat somebody, getting ready to make history. You try to formulate the right team, and if there's one guy that's not pushing the same car with you because he believes in something else, and I know that, and I find out about it, like I'll cut him on the spot. Why aren't you on the same page with everybody else? Why are you being negative Nancy? And then out. I don't care if he's been 15 years with me, 10 years, a year, whatever that may be, because I'm like Derek, man. I'm all about winning. To me, it's like, yeah, the journey's amazing. The journey's fun. It is cool. But man, I like that prize. I like that gold trophy on my damn desk. You know, and this is the honest to God's truth. You know, winners win. Winners want to be around winners, and it's contagious.
You watch this video all the way through, and that tells me you're dedicated to learning more and earning far above average outcomes in your life. Congratulations for that. But now it's time to take action. If you could have earned those results by yourself, you would have done it already. My head coach has opened up a few spots on his high-demand calendar for an in-person, one-on-one strategy session to help you. On this call, we'll give you pragmatic advice that you can implement tonight to get laser-focused on